Okay, Chevre, Shalom Aleichem. Today we're going to do chapters 20, 21, 22. So we're gonna do a lot here, and they're quite they're a bit complicated, and obviously some very important ideas are going to come up. So should need some concentration. These chapters 18 to 25, is what we call the short road. Chapters 16 and 17 are explaining the long road of Avodas Hashem. Yeah, the long road of Avodas Hashem for the Yid, for the Benoni, is basically immerse yourself in godly ideas, and you'll see things are gonna start happening internally. That's the long road. Be mahapich your inner world by immersing yourself without break in godliness, in godly ideas. Okay, that's the long road, and that's we're chayiv in that for always and all time, always. Okay, so we're just talking now about a kind of, the way Taub said it, as a break glass in emergencies kind of way. So from chapters, it's funny because the long road is the long project is explained in 2 chapters, 16, 17. The short-term project is explained in like 7 chapters, from 18 to 25. So 18 to 25, basically what we discussed last week is that you are prepared to give your life up for Achdus Hashem. Okay, that's a hanacha that the Rebbe makes, that is just, that's it. You would give up your life for Achdus Hashem. If a guy was to come to you, put a gun to your head, and say, bow to the idol, or take your life, you'd bow to the idol. You would take the bullet. Okay. Now the next part, that was chapters 18 and 19. Chapters 20, 21, 22 are there to basically explain to you Ein Od Milvadoi. They're trying to get reality in perspective. And then chapters 23, 24, 25 are going to explain what it means mitzvahs, what it means Torah, and you'll see how you really, like, life is actually very binary. You're either, like we've said, you're either choosing him or you're choosing yourself, and yourself isn't an option. And this is what these chapters are doing. They're trying to paint a very black and white picture. Yeah, it's either about God or you've fallen off the boat. Now, in reality, or not in reality, I mean, that is reality actually, but practically speaking, we don't usually look at reality so black and white. There's lots more shades of gray. But this is a specific way of thinking that really helps us to kind of knuckle down when we don't feel like it, basically. So keep that in mind. And this is also, my neshama responds to this kind of very extreme, like fiery kind of thing. And some neshamas don't respond to it. So, take it for what it's worth, and be a chochem, and use it as you see fit. Okay, there's no one size fits all in Avodas Hashem. That's an important idea. Okay, so we basically saying like this. This is the short path in a nutshell. These are 7 chapters in 3 points. Number 1, you would give up your life rather than bow to Avodah Zarah. Number 2, all mitzvahs lo saseh, all sins are Avodah Zarah. Number 3, just like you would give up your life for Avodah Zarah, therefore you would give up your life instead of doing a sin, so don't do any avodas. That's the short path in a really, really short way. Okay, so he gets into Echad Hashem, and the premise. Did anyone read that Torah that we put out the other day, a couple of weeks ago? I put out a little thingy, well, not a little. It took
Yes, yes.
Yitzi read it. Anyone else got it?
Was that the email?
I didn't send it as an email yet. I didn't. Whatever. It's very shy.
Which, the booklet?
Yeah, the
The
little
LCD.
Yeah.
I have a few
Yes.
copies if anybody wants.
I don't know that I saw it.
Yitzi, you got through it?
Yes.
You got through the whole thing? Did you enjoy it?
Yes. Like I mentioned to you, it's very good. The ending was extremely strong.
That was the bit. If you can get through the whole thing, the end is mamash his boinus. It's a real his boinus session. So anyway, that essay that I wrote, it's quite a long essay, but that's this what we're saying here with a big arichas. Okay. The point is that from Hashem's perspective, with the advent of creation, nothing changed. This is a very important idea. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. He brings that pasuk. Is it from Malachi? Malachi? I think it's from Malachi. He brings it a few times, and he explains that this is reality. Shon Gabriel, that Hashem is Echad. He was before creation, and he is after creation. Now, there's a bunch of ways of understanding this. And he really goes into it, but arichas in Echad ve'emunah, which is the second part of Tanya. And I'm not going to go. I've got some really nice like moshalim that I've learned in other places and stuff. I'm not going to go into too much. I'm just going to try and give over what the Alter Rebbe says over here. Okay. So the first thing, the question is, if Hashem is still Echad, as he was before creation, as he is now, then what about me? It appears to me that he isn't Echad anymore. No matter how big he is and how small I am, there's still me and him at least. So the first thing basically that we have to understand is that this creation is a contingent creation. It's dependent. It's called a efsharia metzias, meaning that it is being forced to be in existence. Kol rega v'rega. It was interesting. I wonder, that was so interesting. I realized this morning someone lent me an umbrella quickly, and I needed to get I had to use someone's umbrella, and I realized that his umbrella was constantly trying to like close. My umbrella constantly tries to open. Yeah, it's like there's two ways of umbrellas. I never realized that until this morning. You get the umbrellas that are desperate to spread out, and you get the umbrellas that are desperate to collapse down. Yeah. So I'm always used to this spreading out ones. He let me ask this one that's collapsing down. So the way it works with creation is that creation is trying to collapse down. Creation wants to not be. It's like, you could even look at it as like it's a kind of a chutzpah, that the creation is being forced to be. Creation does not want to be. It's being forced into existence, kol reg v'rega. And if Hashem was to stop forcing it to be into existence, it would immediately not be in existence anymore, just like the umbrella that's desperate to collapse down. It's funny because the things in creation are desperate to open up, but creation itself is desperate to collapse down. Anyway, so that's one thing of understanding, that it's like a thought. So if you were to sit there and start imagining, a 1973, sky blue Buick in your mind. Yeah, you close your eyes, you picture the car, the long contours and the round headlights, and you look inside with the fluffy steering wheel and the dice and all the whole stuff, yeah? And you've got the picture very clear in your mind. The minute you stop thinking about it, that car just goes poof, it's gone. So you can also think of creation like that. But the way the Rebbe creates his boinus here is by saying like this, that creation, as we know, it was created with one word. Really with one letter hey. And what is the relationship of one word to your ability to speak. You could speak endless words. You could speak forever. So one word is, so to speak, infinitely nullified to the koyach hadibor. Now the koyach hadibor, what's that compared to the koyach machshava? So now the koyach hadibor is with what's called oisius gasus, coarse letters. The oisius of machshava is called oisius dakus. They're softer, they're slight letters. So now machshava is the source of dibor. So now compare the koyach of dibor to the koyach of machshava. And that's now a qualitative difference. It's not it's not like a quantum difference, but it's a qualitative difference. And then we've got the koyach machshava compared to the 10 koyachas of the soul. The 10 koyachas of the soul, the one that's speaking, is without oisius bichlal. There's no oisius there. So that's a quantum bittul. That's a quantum qualitative bittul. So one word compared to the ability to speak is an infinite bittul on the level of quantity. Then the koyach of dibor next to the koyach of machshava is a bittul, again an infinite bittul on the level of quality. But the level from machshava, but that's still oisius, but different qualities of oisius. The level of machshava compared to the level of the Eser Koiches and Nefesh is a quantum bittul, because the Eser Koiches and Nefesh is beyond Oisius Bichlal. So if creation was created with one word of Hashem, comparing that one word to his Koyach HaDibor, compared to the Koyach HaMachshava, compared to the actual Eser Koiches, and we're at a complete bittul. We're a complete bittul. So I like the the analogy that I really like, although you can read this LCD mine that I wrote, but the analogy that I like is the analogy of the rock with the name carved into it. You have a nice smooth big rock and you carve your name into the rock. What was added to the rock? Nothing.
Your name.
Well, it wasn't, I mean, you're right, but really nothing was actually added to the rock at all. Just a bit of the rock was removed and your name appeared. So in fact, within that rock was the potential for every name. So that's quite a good mashal for understanding how there's still an Echad. But the best mashal really is the LCD screen. I'm not going to get into it now, but people should. I think Yitzi said he's got some copies, and I'll try and remember to send out the actual that you could print out and read it. But the best mashal that I know of for describing the Echad Hashem is the LCD idea. But I'll quickly give another point, is that, see, a moshel, when someone's giving a moshel, they are the one who's being mamshil. The moshel doesn't exist for him. Meaning, I could give you, in this thing that I wrote, I gave the idea of it describing quantum particles. You could describe them as like fireflies, as ballerinas, or as magic coins. You could use a whole bunch of different analogies for the same idea. When you're giving a moshel, you could give endless different examples to give over the nimshal. Yeah. So the guy who's giving over the moshel, he's completely bound up in the nimshal. To him, the moshel is irrelevant because he could be giving you, he's giving you this moshel, but he could be giving you 10 other different moshalim. So to him, the actual garments, all that is, all the moshel is a package, a packaging and delivery system to get the idea into your head. So he's completely bound up in the idea, and to him, the moshel doesn't exist. Now, conceptually, speech is exactly the same idea as a moshel. When I speak, I'm giving either ideas, I'm either giving you things that I feel, I'm either giving you over my emotions, or ideas that I know, my seichel. Now I encode these ideas. Like I say to you, I love you. I could also say to you, Ani ohev otcha, yeah, or ich leib di, whatever, I don't know. Yeah, you could use any number of, you could use any
Leave for this.
something like that. Yeah, you could use any number of sounds to give over the exact same emotion. I'm giving you my emotion, my love. I love you as an idea. I'm moving it from me using those sounds. I love you. It's going over through into your ears. It unpacks, it unzips inside you. I zip it up through my speech into packages of the words I love you. It goes into your mind, it unzips, and now I transferred myself into you. That's what happened. It's exactly the same idea as a moshel. Exactly, conceptually. I've said this very quickly, but again, like I said, in this thing that I wrote, it goes through a bit of arichas. It's a very, very important idea, which means by HaShem, who's speaking creation into being, there is no creation. He's giving over himself to you and me. HaShem is the nimshul. Creation is the moshel. HaShem himself is the nimshul. He's giving himself to us. That's why by him we can say, Ani Hashem lo shanisi, nothing was added. That's a very powerful meditation if you think about that. Okay. So the Rebbe gives an idea of how it works the way it works the other way. So we spoke about the speech is nullified to the power of machshava, which is powerful, that is nullified to the midas, etc. So he goes like this. This is the idea. Okay, you see a piece of cake. You just see it, and it looks yummy, but you haven't developed a taiva for it yet. You've just seen it. It's come into your consciousness. That's the level of intellect. You don't have an opinion of it. You just know it. It's got nothing to do with you. It's just a piece of chocolate cake. Now, that energy, so to speak, descends into the lave, and now you want it. Just like a young child who doesn't know how to speak will still like go for the candy. He doesn't have power of speech, but he wants that candy. So the first level is you see the cake, it becomes part of your consciousness. The second level is that energy now goes down into the heart, and it creates a taiva for that cake. Now that energy, that taiva energy, which is more powerful than the energy of the seichel, that goes back up into the brain and becomes enclosed in oisius. And you'll start saying things like, wow, that cake looks mamish yummy. I would really like to eat that cake. I wonder how I could get my hands on that cake. I wonder if...
Is that Bina? That's Bina now?
That's not really. It's Bina. No, it's not really Bina. In fact, it's not Bina at all. It's in this case, because it's not taking seichel. You're just saying to yourself, "Wow, that's yummy. I'd like to eat that." Yeah, but it becomes that is the energy of the lave becoming melubash in oisius.
It's essentially Bina of being manipulated by the midos.
Well, not really, because Bina's giving it length and breadth and depth. This is just
How do I get it? I like it. What's it made out of?
When it gets to the how do I get it, then you're into Bina, yeah. But when you've just got in your a good example, yeah. You've ever watched like fight videos on YouTube? Like I'm not talking professional fight, like street fight videos. Sorry to bring up such a terrible thing, but if you watch street fight videos on YouTube, yeah, you'll see that occasionally these very like high level people will start. They'll just say like something like, you want some, or come, they'll start saying the same thing over and over and over. Yeah, that's not seichel bichlal. That's emotion melubash in oisius. That's like a dog barking. Do you know what I'm talking about? So it's love dafka that it's Bina. Bina would be more like when it's an idea, an intelligent idea that gets enclosed in letters. But we're talking about a raw emotion that's getting
this
enclosed in letters.
Straight. This is such a powerful chachma that it jumps straight into midos without having to go through Bina. It goes straight into your emotion. It skips the phase of Bina. It's just a raw. It's a raw instinctual emotion, and then it hijacks your seichel to kind of express it, but it's not actually going through the proper seder hadavar.
Well, ask like this: how old's your youngest kid? You got a 6-year-old or something like that? A 5 or 6-year-old?
Couple of those, yeah.
Whatever. So like you got a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid who doesn't have Bina yet. Okay. But you show him the chocolate cake and he'll be sitting there thinking about it. It will become melubash and oisius, but it won't be giving it
I got you.
Depth and breadth. We're talking on very chaluke ideas, but the point is that it enters into the consciousness. The consciousness then creates the taiva in the lave that's bli oisius. Then that goes back into the moichin and becomes melubash back into oisius. Not back into it becomes melubash in oisius, and it will become like a repetitive mantra in the mind, like I want that, I want that, I want that, something like that. And then it will come back down and it will express itself either in dibur or in maisa. Okay. But then he goes on one step further and he says, so that's like the seder of how it works. So that was going backwards. If you want to know the relationship of the spoken word to the one who's speaking, you can understand it like that. That initially it falls into the seichel. That's so so removed from physicality. It's so ethereal. Then it comes down into emotions that are much more visceral, but still without oisius. And then it becomes enclosed in the oisius of thought, and then it becomes either enclosed in the oisius of speech, or it's acted out, whichever way. Basically, the Rebbe is trying to show you how either way you go, we're just trying to prove the point that the spoken word next to the actual speaker is absolutely null and void. Okay? And then he goes on into another idea, and it says like this: that creation is the Ruach Piv Yizbarach melubash, enclosed within Devar HaShem. And this is a very important idea, that the Devar HaShem is HaShem. That's his breath. That's him. What gives the tsura to the breath is the words, the oisius. But the words are his words. So it really comes out, this is the inyan of Hashem Hu Elokim, is that the means by which Hashem is Mitzamtzem himself is himself. Now I've just learned this. I just want to put my masgan on. Now I've just learned this English book that I would like to learn with everybody. It's amazing. It's called Heaven on Earth by Feitel Levin. It's mind-blowing. It's an English book. And he said a massive chiddush. I'll say it quickly. So we know that Hashem is not Ruchnius Bichlal. He's not Ruchnius, he's not Gashmius, he's Hashem. And I've been giving over from what I've learned from my Rebbe for the past few years, that this is the biggest toast that I know of right now in the Jewish world, is thinking that Hashem is Ruchnius, and therefore striving to be more Ruchni, which is really a Goyesh Zach, the way I understand it. We're striving to be more godly, not more Ruchni. If he needs us to be Gashmi, we're Gashmi. If he needs us to be Ruchni, we're Ruchni. Whatever he wants, that's Avodas Hashem. There's no milah of Ruchnius over Gashmius, Alpi nature.
You told me a line. You have to make your Gashmius for Elikus, and you have to make Ruchnius for Elikus.
Yeah, that's it. So I always learn that as a yid, you're trying to infuse the Gashmius with Ruchnius, but that's not how I understand it. Just what Yoel said. We're trying to infuse the Gashmius with Elikus, and we're trying to infuse the Ruchnius with Elikus. There is such a thing as Ruchnius without Elikus. Yeah, and that's maybe even worse than Gashmius without Elikus. So anyway, so I've been saying for all these years that there's Hashem, and then there's Ruchni and Gashmius the same, on the same line. But this book explains more. He actually explains that Hashem is closer to Gashmius than he is to Ruchnius. Infinitely closer to Gashmius than Ruchnius, which is a trip. And I explained two things. I'm going to say it quickly, but we'll put more time into it another time. We still have quite a bit to do. The Tzimtzum, if you read Oitzvos Chaim, the Tzimtzum took place in the Or Ein Sof, not in the Ein Sof. It said originally there was the Or Ein Sof that filled all the Metzios, and Hashem created a Chalal Panui. Yeah? We know that when we're talking about Hashem, we're talking about Ein Sof, not Or Ein Sof. Or Ein Sof is the expression, it's the light that comes off of Ein Sof. The nature, if you could say such a thing, of the Ein Sof is actually Tzimtzum in a sense. The nature of Ein Sof, it's the nature of Or Ein Sof to fill all of reality. But it's the actual nature of Ein Sof to be completely self-contained with no need for anything or anyone or there's no words can be attached to it in any way, shape or form. We can't say anything. But that includes that it's not moving outward. The outward movement is already called Or Ein Sof. And that means, listen to this, that means that the koyach of Tzimtzum itself is infinitely closer to the essence of the Ribbono Shel Olam than creation, or than the level of light before creation. Did anyone get that? Tzimtzum. Huh?
I didn't get it.
Good.
Yeah, repeat it again.
Good. This takes time to get this because this is mamash sublime. To put it bekitzer without explaining the whole thing about arichas, is the actual koyach at tzimtzum comes from Ein Sof. The tzimtzum takes place in or Ein Sof, but the koyach at tzamtzem is the Ein Sof itself, which means Hashem is more in the tzimtzum than he is than the hispashtus. So let's. I'm not going to say more. Let's just say it like this. Yeah, all the ruchnius worlds are bottled to Hashem to varying degrees. They're like windows. They're like glass windows to get varying transparencies to Hashem. You go into the world of Yetzirah and you become very aware of Hashem. Go into the world of Bria, you become even more aware of Hashem. In Atzilus, it appears that there's only Hashem. Okay? All the worlds above our physical world are varying degrees of bittul to the Avodah Shalom. They proclaim that Hashem is real and I'm not real. I'm bottled to him. You can look through me and see him. How godly is that? That's the opposite of God. God is absolute. He is an existence that is not totally on anything. So all of the spiritual worlds are really the opposite of God, because they say to you, look at God, see through me. I'm just a dependent reality. I'm just an efshariya metzius. So you see through me and you see God. How godly is that? Not very godly. God isn't bottle. God is the ultimate yesh. God isn't iron. Masha'ain came ba'olam hazeh. The things of this world proclaim ani v'afsi oid. I don't have a creator. I made myself. I was here yesterday. I'll be here tomorrow. I'm not dependent on anything or anyone. I'm a chiyuvi metzius. That's mamash godly. That's the gilui of the Rabbeinu Shalom in this world. That's the quality of the Etzem Hashem. So this rabbi explained like this, that until now, and so what you were saying about with the Gashmias Ruchnias, listen to take it a step further, yeah? I don't know if people are holding with me with this, but if to take it a step further, everyone separates reality into infinity and finity. That sounds like a good division, yeah? Let's divide reality into infinity. Comes along this sefer and explains, no, in the name of the Babach Rebbe, no, we divide reality into etzem and gilui, to the essence of Hashem and to gilui. And when you divide reality into etzem and gilui, infinity and finity both fit into gilui. And you have a whole different level that's quantum. It's a completely different. And that's this world. And that's what we're going to be zocher to by Tchias HaMeisim and Mashiach, when we're going to understand the heiligkeit of Olam Hazeh, that the things of this world that proclaim their own Metzias, that they are Elokus in a sense. This is what Rav Mani said to me years ago when he said that this Gaiva that's come into play in our generation, he said it's for this purpose. Everyone's saying ani, yeah, they've become really caught up in the zich, yeah. Why? Because when Hashem finally reveals himself, we're going to be able to turn around and say, oh, I made a mistake. I thought I was God. But now I realize what's pshat. You've got a frame of reference. You'll have a frame of reference from the Gaiva, from the self-contained Ich, Anoichius. You've got a frame of reference to understand what it really means when Hashem reveals who he really is. And you're like, I was just off. I thought I was him. I thought I was Echad. Now I realize he is Echad. As opposed to previous generations where there wouldn't have been any point of contact. That's a very deep idea, however. I'm even young. Okay. So now let's go quick. A lot of these ideas now we know anyway, so I'm just going to finish off quickly. We mentioned the idea of receiving from Hashem's Ponim and receiving from his Acharayim. Okay, so basically the next part of these chapters go into explaining the Sitra Achra and how it basically devolves into Avodah Zarah. When you're giving something for itself, you're interested in the thing that you're giving to as an end unto itself, then you're giving from your inner self. That's called Panemius Aratzon. When you're giving to something as a means to an end, you don't really want it for itself. That's called giving it from the Acharayim. It's like the Rebbe says, it's like you kind of give it over your shoulder, just like take it. You don't look it in the face. Okay, it's a very low level of energy that it receives. But in the Sitra Achra, and we know that the reason why he does that is to give us free will. In the Sitra Achra, that little bit of energy goes into Galus. It becomes entrapped within the Sitra Achra, and it's held captive there. Okay. The three primary statements of the Klipa and Sitra Achra are attributed to Paro. The first one is Ani v'afsi oid, and then two of them go together. Is Ya'or li v'ani asis sani. Ani v'afsi oid means I am and nothing else is. Yeah, that's kind of obvious. We know that. Then Ya'or li, the Nile, the river belongs to me. Says in the Navi. And then the next in the same pasuk straight after it says Va'ani asisi sani. I made myself. And this really completely encapsulates Klipa and Sitra Achra. Ani v'afsi oid, I exist independent and exclusively. Okay? That's the opposite of Ein Od Milvadoi. I exclusively exist. Ya'or li is the koyach kinyan. I own the Nile. The Nile belongs to me. Yeah? An Eved Hashem, an Eved doesn't own anything. Or a son also, a young son who's dependent on his father also doesn't own anything. It belongs to the Baal, it belongs to the father. Yeah, that's an Eved Hashem. But a Baal Gaiva is someone who owns things. Yeah, that's why you write on our Sfarim, Hashem La Hashem Ha'oretzim Lo, Lamed Hey Vav. Yeah, this sefer belongs to Hashem. Nothing belongs to me. Yeah, that's a very healthy way, like the Chassid. Sheli Shalach or Shalach Shalach. You give from him, from his. Yeah, said David HaMelech. That whole union of ownership is very Gaivadik. And then another incredibly Gaivadik statement is Va'ani asisisani. I made myself. I created myself. Those three statements are the statement of the Klipa. So I'll say very, very quickly, this is my own chiddush, but it's quite a nice idea, is that the Eser Makos, you see, were there to dismantle this idea of Paroi, the idea of Klipa. So the level of Ya'or li, meaning my own Baalus, I own things, that was remedied by the Makkah's Dam, because Makkah's Dam caused the Mitzrayim to have to buy the water from the Yidden. So Hashem was saying to the Mitzrayim, you think you own anything? You don't even own the water of the Nile. I'll make you buy that from the Yidden. Yeah, that was the dismantling of your Oli. And then Makkah's Bechoros, the final part was Hashem dismantling that final level of the Klippa, where you think you own yourself. The Bechor belongs to me. That's Yadua. And that was, again, his guys. That was just my own chiddush anyway. Okay, but this is, I suppose, the most important part of the class now, is the definition of Avodah Zarah. Anyone wants to throw out a definition of Avodah Zarah?
Attributing
the belief. Go. The belief that a power other than Hashem has control over something. So that's yeah.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. Perfect. That is the definition of Avodah Zarah, that there is another power. So the Goyim used to call God Elokad, Elokai, Elohai Adonatze, the God of gods. Yeah, I don't know which if one would be Halig, I don't know. They used to call him the God of gods, meaning they didn't deny his existence, but they denied his achdus, meaning there are other koiches in the world. Every Aveira is a bechina of Avodah Zarah. At the beginning of Perek Kaf, he explains that all of the Baal HaTanya explains in the Shem of Zohar, all mitzvahs asay and nichlal in the mitzvah anoichi. All 248 positive mitzvahs are nichlal in anoichi, and all 365 negative mitzvahs are nichlal in lo yelecha. So that means that all negative mitzvahs are a bechina of Avodah Zarah. How so? So I've got two good examples. A guy, in the 30s, when people came to America and people were like mama starving to death, and they had to open up their shop on Shabbos. And he would turn around to you and say, listen, I love Shabbos. I'm not judging anyone here, I'm just giving as an example, yeah. I love Shabbos, and I would like to keep Shabbos, but I haven't got money, and the busiest day of the week is Saturday, and I have to open up my shop on Saturday. So now there's a contradiction between, so to speak, the God of Parnassa and the Rebbeinu Shloim. He's saying that there's another power in the world. There's this power there's this independent reality called Parnassa. The way I pray, the way I worship the God of Parnassa is by opening up my shop on Shabbos. That's the worship that the God of Parnassa demands from me. I need to open up my shop on Shabbos. That means I will appease him, or I will make him happy. I'll give him nachas, whatever it is, and he will then give me Parnassa. That has introduced, that's very obvious that that's an element of Avodah Zarah. The way I just painted that makes it very obvious how that's a bechina of Avodah Zarah. Yeah? With me? It's Pasha, yeah? But what about, why is eating a treif sandwich a bechina of Avodah Zarah? We understand that opening up my shop because I believe in the power of economics. Yeah, that's introducing, like Yoel said, that's introducing another koyach into the bria, another Elohim into the bria. That's Elohim Acherim. But why is it Avodah Zarah when I eat a treif sandwich? What's that got to do with Avodah Zarah? What's that got to do with introducing another power?
Tanug, you're
You got it.
No, you go this time, Gabriel.
My taiva is stronger to me than Hashem right now. That means my taiva exists. I exist. I'm Hashem.
Yeah, that's the new God is the new God is your appetite. So in the first case, God the God introduced, the Elohim Acherim introduced into reality was the God of economics, the God of Parnassa. And the way you appease him or worship him or whatever is by opening up your shop on Shabbos. But now there's another God that we just introduced, which is the God of my appetite. And the way you appease him, it depends what he's desirous of. But let's say he's desirous of a treif sandwich. The way you appease him, the way you worship him, is by giving him that sandwich. So I've said this so many times, I just find it funny, so I'll say it again. My 10-year-old, I learned with I'll probably say it to you anyway, but I learned with my 10-year-old Rambam, yeah? And I wake him up in the morning to learn, like that. Our chavrusa is at like 7:45 in the morning, yeah? So I have to wake him up. So I wake him up, and usually he like jumps out of bed or whatever. And this day, not this day, a few weeks ago, he was like really tired. I wake him up. He's like, "Dad, leave me up, leave me alone, leave me alone." I'm like, "Come on, get up. We've got to learn Rambam." He's like, no. And he said, "I'm tired." I said, "You're tired?" I said to him, "You know how many people there are on this planet? There's about 8 billion people, yeah? No one cares that you're tired. Not one of them cares that you're tired, including me. So stop being, don't be why should you care? If no one else cares, why do you care? Get up." And it resonated with him. He got out of bed. That's really a very healthy attitude. I want to say this to my wife. So what? What's that got to do with anything? I want to eat this. I want to look at that. That's not part of the cheshbon. That's not part of the cheshbon. You're a guest in his world. Now imagine someone coming to your house. There are certain things that are just, you're a guest in my house. Behave yourself. Certain things you can't do. I don't care that you want to do that. You want to walk around my house naked. So what? Get out of my house. Want to walk around my house naked? Get out of my house. Walk around my house, outside my house. We're guests in his world. You want to do something that's asa, well, you can't do it. So, I mean, it would be nice if I didn't want to do things that are asa, and the more we work on this, the more these things will become easier to deal with and less urgent and less apparently, but that's really that's why all Averas are in truth Avodah Zarah. And he's going to tie it back now into chapters 23, 24 that are very complicated, that we'll have a go at next week, B'ezrat Hashem, and just brings it down very hard that this is actually a very productive way of looking at the world for the right kind of person at the right kind of time. But for me, it's really helpful. So, but for other people who maybe aren't as like me, it might not be helpful, but he's trying to say to you, trying to paint the picture of this world as a binary place. It's yes or no, it's black or white, it's God or you. Yeah, there's no middle ground, and that's helpful for, like I said, for the right person at the right time. And that's what we call the short path. It's not the long path. The long path is where you actually you're changing your midas. You're actually growing in becoming more godly. This is just more like, well, who do you think you are? You can't do that. Yeah, Gabriel.
That's why worshiping the God of Parnassa is also worshiping yourself. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Any idol that you choose, the ultimate goal is your benefit, which means you're making yourself into a God.
Yeah.
And what comes out, which is quite scary, is that many people relate to Hashem as an Avodah Zarah as well.
Oh,
They go to Hashem asking for what they want, as opposed to telling Hashem that they're willing to do what he wants. Right? It's a completely different Havana and Tefillah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You've said that before?
Well, I'm happy that you said it and I didn't say it.
Okay.
I agree with you. We have to get the point of being created is to come to serve Hashem Lishma. That's it, which means we're in it for him. And if you need parnasa, the only reason why you need parnasa is because you can't serve him without parnasa.
Right. So a person is, in other words, a person can ask for the ani, but the lens that you see it through is to get to become a better person and become a better yid. I mean, like just to become a better yid.
To be over better, like you can't, like the Rambam says, you can't serve Hashem with a tummy ache. It's really hard. It's just really difficult. You got a tummy ache, you just wanna, it's horrible. So you need good health to be able to be over him. And that's what it says in that. I mean, that's the Pashat of the Shema. You know, be a good boy, and he'll give you rain in its time, and your cows will have what to eat, etc. Means he will twist reality that you'll be able to serve him in a more effective, with a more full service. And that's the biggest schus we could ever imagine of. It's like so silly talking about this kind of, you know, olam haba dika reward, when you the schus of being able to do something for the Bono Shalom himself is you know, an 8-year-old can appreciate that. That's very important to keep that in mind. That's the Echad, to realize that these mitzvahs that we're doing are genuinely precious to him. They're genuinely dear, like putting tefillin on in the morning. He's genuinely grateful to you for putting on tefillin. He really is. That's to get that in your mind and to get really real with that, and then you can start to really give yourself, because like, how much can you give yourself for your own pleasure? How much are you prepared to put yourself out for your own pleasure? It takes a real narcissist, you know what I mean, like a real messed up mind to really put himself out. Like, you know, who sits in the kitchen for 2 hours preparing themselves, you know, some kind of unbelievable meal? That takes a real messed up mind, yeah. But your dad's coming into town from out of town or whatever, yeah, and you've got the schus of making him. You might sit there for 2 hours and make him a really delicious meal. When you're working for someone else, then the avodah can be infinite. When you're working for yourself, you're limited by yourself. It's not, you know, there's not so, you can't invest yourself so much into it. So that's probably the most important, in my mind. That's the most important part of turning your mind towards him, is that it means you can push to a level that you wouldn't be able to even dream of pushing if it was for yourself. You just wouldn't do it. Like, you'd make you'd make your kids a nice meal. You'd make yourself just a piece of tuna, you know, pieces of bread with some tuna on it. Like, whereas you'd go out your way to make somebody else a nice meal. That's the exact inyan. So if we can turn our mind and our heart outward to the Bono Shalom, then we'll be able to invest much more energy than we could ever imagine otherwise. Okay, we should be Zeicha. Bezrat Hashem.
Okay. Well, just want to share